Today we expose the chicken lie poisoning millions of Australian families with fake value, hidden contaminants and corporate deception. Number 1. Ingham's, the rubber and plastic trap. You know exactly why you have bought Ingham's. It is everywhere. It is in Woolworths, it is in Coles, it is in IGA, it is stacked high in the frozen section, it lines the deli counter, and it comes in every format imaginable. Crumb tenders, chicken Kievs, breast fillets and family value packs that feel like a responsible, familiar choice when you're trying to feed 4 people on a Tuesday night budget. The packaging looks clean and professional. The brand has been part of Australian kitchens for generations. You trust it automatically without thinking because that is what long-term brand familiarity is engineered to produce. But the visceral, genuinely disturbing reality emerged in 2018 and again in 2019 when multiple Ingham's chicken products were urgently recalled from Woolworths and Coles stores nationwide. According to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission Product Safety Database, Ingham's Sweet Chili Chicken Breast Tenders, a 400-gram cardboard box product sold nationally at Woolworths, Coles, IGA and Spar supermarkets, was recalled in 2018 because it may have contained pieces of hard plastic. The hazard listed by the ACCC was unambiguous. Food products containing hard plastic may cause an injury if consumed. Consumers were told not to eat the product and to return it for a full refund. Then, in 2019, the New South Wales Food Authority issued another urgent recall for Ingham's Sweet Chili Chicken Kiev, purchased from the Woolworths deli counter across New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria and Western Australia, because the product was potentially contaminated with blue rubber embedded in the flesh. The hazard listed was choking. So why is this happening? Why does one of Australia's most recognised poultry brands end up sending hard plastic and rubber into the mouths of Australian families not once, but twice in consecutive years? The answer lies in the industrial processing environment where these products are made. High-speed machinery, enormous daily volume, rotating parts, and the constant pressure of mass production working against the kind of careful quality control that would catch a fragment before it leaves the factory. The financial sting is not just the cost of a recalled product. It is the emergency dental appointment after a tooth cracks on a plastic shard. It is the terrifying hospital trip when a small child chokes on blue rubber inside what their parent believed was a safe, trusted, brand-name chicken Kiev. It is the thousands of dollars in medical costs that no supermarket refund will ever cover. The packaging promises quality Australian chicken products from a trusted national brand. But the reality reveals a production system where foreign objects have entered the food supply not once but repeatedly, and where the regulatory system only catches the problem after the product has already reached your family's dinner table. Have you bought Ingham's and noticed something in the texture, the color, or the feel that made you stop and think twice? Drop your experience in the comments right now, because too many Australians have been burned by this and stayed silent, and the silence is what lets it keep happening. But if you think foreign matter in your chicken is the worst of it, number 2 is a health threat that operates invisibly, at the microscopic level. And it was found inside chicken from every single major Australian supermarket chain at the same time. Number 2, major supermarket home brand raw chicken, the superbug carrier. You grab the Woolworths home brand breast fillets, or the Coles Simply Chicken pieces, or the ALD Farmdale raw chicken because the price makes sense. The packaging looks perfectly clean, and you are going to cook it thoroughly anyway, so you assume heat takes care of everything. That assumption is the trap. The visceral reality is microscopic, invisible to the eye, odorless in the raw product, and potentially devastating if it transfers to a chopping board, a knife handle, a child's hand, or a piece of salad that does not get cooked. A research study commissioned by Animals Australia and conducted by the University of Canberra's Host Microbe Interactions Research Group examined 244 raw packaged chicken meat samples taken directly from Aldi, Coles, IGA and Woolworths stores across New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory. The findings were reported on ABC's 7:30 program in April 2023, and they are deeply alarming. The researchers found 33 types of bacterial species capable of causing infection in humans inside the meat samples. All of the bacterial species found showed resistance to at least one class of antibiotics, classified as critically or highly important by the World Health Organization. 12% of the bacteria found had multi-drug resistance, meaning they were resistant to multiple classes of antibiotics used in human medicine. These are what scientists call superbugs, bacteria that, if they infect a person with a compromised immune system, an elderly family member, a very young child, or anyone unlucky enough to need that antibiotic to treat another illness at the same time, the standard medical treatment may not work. Dr. Claire O'Brien, Associate Professor in Biomedical Science at the University of Canberra, said the study revealed that Australia is not immune to the global spread of antimicrobial resistance genes, and that better surveillance and prevention is more pressing than ever. So why does no one talk about this? Because the contamination is invisible, because the chicken looks clean, because you cannot smell a superbug, because the packaging does not mention it, and because in Australia, approximately 60% of all antibiotic use occurs in animal farming, not always to cure diagnosed illness, but to prevent disease in large-scale intensive production environments where animals are kept in high-density conditions, according to research published by the Feather and Bone Project and aired on ABC. The financial sting is not measurable in the price of a chicken breast. It is measurable in the cost of a serious hospital admission when a bacterial infection from cross-contaminated food does not respond to standard treatment. It is measurable in the loss of a drug of last resort. The packaging promises fresh, wholesome, safe protein for your family, but the University of Canberra data reveals chicken-carrying bacteria that are already one step ahead of the antibiotics designed to protect you. Tell me in the comments, did you know about this? Or did this just permanently change the way you see that raw chicken on your kitchen bench? Because the way you handle it, the surfaces it touches, and the hands that prepare it matter more than most people have ever been told. And if you think invisible bacteria is frightening, number 3 is a betrayal that was named in the Federal Court of Australia, and it involves a welfare promise that millions of Australians believed for years. Number 3, Steggles, the free-to-roam lie. You have seen the Steggles packaging. It has the imagery, the language and the tone of a brand that cares. For many Australians, Steggles has been the chicken you choose when you want to feel a little better about your purchase, when you want to believe the birds lived a decent life before they became dinner. The free-to-roam claim felt like a promise, a simple, reassuring piece of information that told you the product in your hands was different from the factory floor alternative. But the visceral reality of what free-to-roam actually meant inside the processing operations was exposed in the Federal Court of Australia. According to an ACCC media release published in October 2013, the Federal Court ordered Bayada Poultry and Barter Enterprises, the processors and suppliers of Steggles branded chicken products, to pay a total of $400,000 in civil penalties. The court found that the companies had engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct by representing to consumers that their chickens were free to roam, when the conditions in which the chickens were actually raised did not support that claim in the way a reasonable consumer would interpret it. The ACCC at the time said the case sent a clear message to the food industry about the use of credence claims, the kind of welfare or environmental claims that consumers rely on but cannot personally verify. You are buying a promise. You are trusting a label. You have no way of walking onto the farm yourself and checking, and the court found that the promise and the reality were not aligned. Why does this matter beyond the welfare question? It matters because if an industry can successfully use misleading welfare language on its packaging for years before a regulator catches up, then every welfare claim on every supermarket chicken product in Australia deserves scrutiny, not automatic trust. The financial sting is the premium you paid, possibly for years, for a product you believed was ethically produced. When the court found those claims could not be substantiated in the way consumers reasonably understood them, the brochure promises chickens raised with space, freedom, and care in a natural environment. But the federal court reveals a $400 penalty finding of misleading conduct around the very claim that made millions of Australians reach for that product in the first place. I want to know how many people watching this right now bought Steggles specifically because they believed the free-to-roam claim. Comment the word yes if this has happened to you. Your answer is not a confession. It is evidence of how far a misleading label can reach into Australian homes before anyone stops it. But if you think a misleading welfare claim is bad, number 4 is where the water injection story gets fully exposed. And the numbers are going to make your blood boil. Number 4, Woolworths home brand water-injected chicken, the saltwater scam. You pick up the Woolworths home brand chicken breast, the family pack, the one that looks generous and heavy and affordable. It sits in your trolley and feels like a win. You get it home, you open the plastic, and you put it straight into the hot frying pan. Then it happens. The pan fills with a murky, pale, bubbling grey liquid that keeps coming and coming, far more than any natural moisture ever should. The chicken sits in its own watery puddle instead of searing. The surface goes pale and rubbery before it browns. The texture becomes spongy and dense rather than firm and clean-fibred. The smell is flat and faintly saline instead of the clean, mild scent of good, fresh poultry. You are watching your money evaporate, literally. According to a thread on the Reddit community for Australia, which has been discussed widely in consumer forums, Woolworths chicken is nearly impossible to cook with due to all the water injected into it. One user stated the chicken releases so much moisture it essentially boils in its own liquid before browning becomes possible. Another commenter on the Reddit thread discussing Woolworths macro chicken quality changes in February 2025 noted the quality had been going down, with water content making the product practically unusable for normal cooking. The practice of injecting chicken with saline solution, a mixture of water and sodium compounds, is a legal processing technique in Australia that can add significant weight to the final product. Estimated injection levels can add up to 15 to 18% water weight in some heavily processed products, according to industry sources cited in consumer discussions and news investigations. That means if you buy a kilogram of chicken at $14, you may be paying for up to 140 to 180 grams of injected salt water at premium chicken prices. That is as much as $2, $50 worth of salty water per kilo, hidden inside a product you assumed was pure meat. Across a year of weekly family shopping, that invisible overcharge can add up to hundreds of dollars paid for water, not food. So why is this happening? Because heavier product means more money at the checkout. Because injected moisture artificially extends the perceived freshness window. Because the processing is invisible and the consumer has no way to see it in the sealed package under the refrigerator lights. The packaging promises fresh Australian chicken breast, perfect for your family's everyday meals, but the reality reveals a water-laden product, engineered to weigh more, cook worse, and deliver less protein per dollar than the clean-labeled price suggests. Have you ever stood at your stove, watching your chicken drown in grey water instead of sear? Comment right now, because this community is building a record that the industry cannot ignore. And if you think being charged for water is infuriating, number 5 is the one that hits closest to home, because it involves the ready-to-eat products that go straight from the pack to your family's mouth. Number 5, processed supermarket chicken ready meals, the hidden ingredient trap. You grab the rotisserie chicken from the warmer, the crumbed chicken strips from the chilled ready meal section, or the pre-marinated thighs in the sealed tray because you are exhausted, you are short on time, and this feels like the fast, easy, safe shortcut on a weeknight. The chicken is already cooked or prepped. You trust that the hard work has been done for you. The smell is warm and familiar and comforting, but the visceral reality is what you find when you turn the sealed tray over and actually read the ingredients list in the fine print. Sodium, phosphates, flavor enhancers, modified starches, acidity regulators, and a collection of additives with numbers instead of names that most Australians cannot identify and never asked for. These are not just preservatives, they are structural ingredients added to cheap cuts, low-grade trimmings, and reconstituted formats to produce a product that looks, smells, and feels like whole muscle chicken, but is engineered from parts and powders and chemical binders that make the final form possible. According to Choice Australia's food labelling investigations, Australian consumers consistently report being surprised and disturbed by the actual ingredient complexity of processed chicken products that appear simple on the shelf. The flavour is engineered to be appealing. The sodium content is high enough to mask the real taste of the underlying product, and the phosphate compounds help the water stay bound inside the meat, so the texture feels more appealing than it would without chemical assistance. The financial sting is not just the premium price you pay for a product that contains significantly less actual chicken than the weight suggests. It is the cumulative health cost of regularly consuming high-sodium, heavily processed foods that your family did not know they were eating, because the front of the pack showed a golden, beautifully browned piece of chicken and nothing else. The signage and packaging promise a quick, easy, family-friendly hot meal made from real Australian chicken. But the reality reveals a chemically assisted, highly processed food product where the clean image on the front bears very little resemblance to the full ingredient story on the back. Tell me in the comments, when was the last time you flipped a ready-to-eat chicken product over and actually read the full ingredient list? If the answer is never, that is not a failure on your part. That is exactly the outcome the marketing was designed to produce. Do you see the pattern here? Step back and look at what every single one of these chicken products has in common. Every single item on this list shares the same core mechanism, a production system that prioritizes weight, shelf life, volume, and cost over transparency, safety, and genuine nutritional quality. Ingham's products had foreign objects reach the consumer twice in consecutive years through industrial contamination. The home brand raw chicken, across all 4 major chains, was found by University of Canberra researchers to carry antibiotic-resistant bacteria because the farming systems that feed the supermarket supply chain use antibiotics at a scale that accelerates resistance. Steggles was ordered by the federal court to pay $400 for misleading welfare claims because the chicken industry understood that Australians make purchasing decisions based on trust, and it used that trust as a commercial tool. The water-injected home-brand breast fillers are legal products that are engineered to deceive your eyes, your hands, and your wallet at the checkout scale. And the processed ready meals are built to look simple while hiding a complex chemical ingredient list designed to make the product appealing regardless of the underlying quality. Every single one of these failures exists because the system is built to make you trust the shelf and never ask questions. But you do not have to be the victim of that system. Now let us talk about the Australian chicken options that are actually worth your trust, your money, and your family's health. Option 1. Lilydale free-range chicken. Lilydale is structurally different because it is one of the few major poultry brands in Australia that operates under a defined, independently audited, free-range certification standard, with outdoor access requirements that are documented and verifiable rather than just printed on a label for marketing purposes. The brand is owned by Bayada, and while that parent company has had its own history, the Lilydale range was developed specifically to meet independently verified welfare standards that go significantly beyond the requirements for standard commercial chicken. The sensory proof point you can verify yourself is immediate. When you cook Lilydale free-range chicken breast in a dry pan, the moisture release is significantly lower than a water-injected supermarket product. The surface browns properly. The texture stays firm and fibrous rather than spongy and wet, and the flavor is noticeably cleaner and more like actual cooked chicken rather than a salted, watery simulacrum. The practical instruction is simple. Buy 1 Lilydale breast fillet this week. Cook it alongside whatever home brand fillet you currently use. Put them in the same pan at the same temperature, and let the result tell you everything you need to know about what you have been paying for. Option 2, your local independent butcher's fresh chicken. This is structurally different because an independent butcher sources from smaller supply chains, often directly from regional farms with better traceability, and has a direct personal stake in the quality of every single product they sell because their reputation sits on every transaction. They cannot afford a recall. They cannot hide behind national brand marketing. They cannot rely on consumer inertia to keep people coming back after a bad experience. The sensory proof point is this: fresh chicken from a quality independent butcher has a clean, very mild, almost neutral smell, with no chemical or saline edge. The surface of the breast is slightly tacky and moist, but not wet. When you press it, it springs back firmly. When you cook it, it does not flood the pan with grey water. It sears, it browns, it smells like chicken, not like a processing plant. The practical instruction is to find 1 independent butcher within driving distance of your home. Buy 1 kilogram of their fresh chicken breast and compare the cooking results side by side with your usual supermarket product. The price difference, if there is one, will be measurably smaller than the quality difference. Option 3, certified organic whole chickens from a verified Australian supplier. This is structurally different because the certified organic standard in Australia prohibits the use of antibiotics for routine disease prevention, which is the exact practice that the University of Canberra research and the ABC 730 report identified as a key driver of antibiotic resistance in the national supermarket chicken supply. When you buy a certified organic whole chicken, you are buying a product where the antibiotic use rules are legally enforceable through the certification body, not just a marketing claim. You can look up the certification body, check the farm, and verify the standard. The sensory proof point is the most powerful one of all. Peel back the organic chicken and smell the cavity. It should smell clean, faintly savory, and faintly animal in the best possible sense, not sharp, chemical, or artificially neutral. The skin should be yellowish and textured, not bright white and glossy. The practical instruction is to check your local farmer's market this weekend for a certified organic chicken supplier. Ask them directly which certification body audits their farm, and make one purchase. The price will be higher. The antibiotic resistance risk will be lower. That is the trade-off the system never wants you to calculate. Australian chicken culture has drifted from knowing your butcher, knowing your farm, and buying whole birds with bones, organs, and provenance that you could trace, to blindly grabbing the cheapest sealed plastic tray under the brightest refrigerator lights in the country's largest retail chains. Australians have been systematically misled into believing that a clean package means a clean product, that a trusted national brand means a transparent supply chain, that a fresh label means a fresh bird, and that a welfare claim on a glossy packet means anything at all without independent verification. The federal court disagreed. The University of Canberra's researchers disagreed. The ACCC's product recall database disagreed. Millions of Australian families have been paying for water, accepting plastic and rubber fragments in their food, and eating bacteria with resistance profiles that belong in a scientific warning document, not in a weeknight dinner. This did not happen because Australians made bad choices. It happened because the system was designed to make sure they never had the full information they needed to make a good one.